A student goes from actively participating in class to sitting alone in their room. Their grades drop over a matter of weeks, and their social life vanishes practically overnight. They are experiencing acute, unexplained psychological trauma. When this happens, parents and educators instinctively search for traditional evidence: bruises from a physical altercation, cruel text messages, or explicit threats on social media. But often, they find nothing. The digital paper trail is empty. Our detection systems fail because we search screens and servers for a digital footprint, missing that the actual evidence of the attack is playing out in the student's behavior. Modern cyberbullying tactics bypass standard safety nets. The perpetrators avoid triggering content moderation filters or school policy violations, leaving a false negative that makes the victim appear to be struggling for no reason at all. This diagram illustrates the clinical fingerprint. When platform evidence yields 0 results, we must look past the phone and read the specific psychological markers left on the mind. Those form a universal baseline: severe shame, a near-total refusal to talk, and sudden school avoidance. To protect these students, we must reverse engineer the attacks. We start from these visible clinical symptoms and work backward, rather than waiting for digital evidence that will never exist. The first of these invisible vectors is group chat exclusion. The weapon here is silent. It isn't a harsh word or a threat. It is the deliberate act of leaving someone out. The mechanics are simple. A chat is formed, the student is excluded, and the perpetrators ensure the victim knows everyone else is participating without them. This baffles traditional detection because no one sent a harassing message and no explicit rule was broken. This attack leaves a specific clinical fingerprint, manifesting as severe social withdrawal and a rapid deterioration in the student's daily mood. Since omission leaves no platform-level evidence, student self-reporting and close clinical observation are the only ways to detect the harm being done. The second vector relies on technology sitting in a middle schooler's pocket. Students are now using highly accessible AI tools to digitally map a classmate's face onto generated, non-consensual nude bodies. This flowchart shows the legal loophole these images create. Existing reporting frameworks and Title IX protections were built for real photographs. When a report hits the system, it bounces off a wall because the image is technically fake, dropping the victim out of the framework. This creates a severe clinical fingerprint, acute trauma, profound shame, and sometimes a spike in suicidal ideation. Even when the law and technology fail to classify the harm as real, the resulting psychological devastation remains an undeniable reality. The third vector is doxing and screenshot leaks. Suddenly, a private direct message becomes a very public post. A vulnerable conversation or a home address is dropped into a thread for an entire grade to see. The terror here comes from permanence. The original sender loses control of their words. They live in a state of suspense, waiting for the other shoe to drop as the exposure spreads from phone to phone. This loss of control causes a distinct clinical fingerprint: intense hypervigilance, sleep disruption, and panic spectrum symptoms. The harm radiates outward, moving well beyond the originating app. Once the initial exposure happens, platform-level moderation cannot contain the damage. This diagram shows how these vectors bypass the traditional policies and detection grids we rely on to keep kids safe. Updating school policies and redefining detection language is necessary, but policy moves slowly. That pace is insufficient for a student experiencing an acute trauma response today. A modern anti-bullying framework cannot rely on policy alone. If we cannot prevent the invisible attack, we must partner with clinicians to treat the trauma. MentalSpace School is a clinical partner designed specifically to provide K-12 mental health support and direct crisis intervention for schools across Georgia. They specialize in immediate intervention. By assigning dedicated, culturally competent therapist teams directly to schools, they offer same-day teletherapy for students in distress. This dashboard highlights how they remove barriers. The system is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, staying in-network with major providers, and operating at zero cost for Medicaid. Measurable outcomes prove this works. Schools report an 89% improvement in attendance and a 92% reduction in anxiety. By placing elite clinical intervention directly at the school level, we can intercept the crisis. We treat the fingerprint before the symptoms lead to a permanent tragedy.
The true front line of modern cyberbullying exists entirely within the student's mind, far beyond the reach of any glowing screen. True protection requires a shift in focus. We must move from tracking digital footprints to treating clinical fingerprints.